Good afternoon. My name is Jenna Perry, and today I will be discussing the financial position of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. What I'm going to basically talk about is the overall financial position of the university, where we stand financially, where we derive our funding streams from, where we just a general overview of areas of where we can improve and generate more funding. Starting out with the general funding stream, Embry-Riddle is a private university, and because we're private, the primary source of revenue that we receive is from tuition. We get a little bit of funding from the state, some funding from government in the form of grants, but for the most part, it is tuition generates the most money for our educational institution. There are other streams such as auxiliary enterprises on campus. We have dining facilities, we have dormitories. Most definitely tuition and fees is where we see the majority of our money. What's interesting is that economic and political influences that contribute to how much funding some of those funding streams provide. Well, the unemployment rate for people, if it goes up, those people are going to need funds from the government. Well, that money has to come from somewhere. So the government may take money from the higher education fund and give it towards unemployment. There are political influences, and we actually employ lobbyists that promote laws that are going to benefit our private institution. The power that politics have on funding, if the government wants to change a specific behavior in higher education, they pull the strings of the budget to influence change. So maybe they'll come out and say, like, legislators will say, hey, you know what, we're going to give the most funding this year to institutions that have small class sizes. If they feel that class size is a benefit, they'll allocate more funds to institutions that support that. So that's how the political environment can impact funding streams within higher education. One of the forms that I used to determine the financial stance and position of Embry-Riddle was the 990 form. One thing that I found was very interesting was that we have a statement here. Our university retains lobbying firms at the state and federal level. Within the state, the university lobbying activities are primarily in support of programs that benefit student at private institutions within the state of Florida. So one particular is the Effective Access to Student Education EASE grant program that provides scholarships to Florida residents who attend private institutions. That is important to our university, and we want to lobby for that because a lot of our students, we have high enrollment numbers in Florida from Florida residents who utilize that grant. So we want to ensure that that grant continues to benefit us. At the federal level, Embry-Riddle's lobbying activity focuses on support of research centers and other educational initiatives. We want to ensure that nothing has changed in the political environment that would prevent us from receiving those sort of funds. I use the 990 form to determine our financial position, but I also used the most up-to-date information was a consolidated financial statement for Embry-Riddle for 2019. It's basically the financial position of the university. And what I found was super useful in this is that I know that we have tuition dollars that generate revenue, that allow us to operate and all these things, but I really had no idea how much money our funding streams generate and how much we spend. I'm going to kind of break this down into two big categories. We have operating activities, which include revenue and general revenue overall, and then expenses, overall expenses. And I'm going to talk about them a little so we can understand where this revenue is coming from and where our funds are going to. Our highest funding stream is in tuition. Our tuition for 2019 was $300,219,000. $18,192,000 for grants and contracts. Private gifts, $499,000. Auxiliary enterprises, so we're talking about the small services located on campus as far as dining halls, residence facilities that generate revenue, $28,889,000. So a total adds up to $417 million. The position of the university is actually overall very good because our expenses are less than our revenue. So we made money in 2019, which is a good thing, right? Looking at the expenses, the highest expense that we had was Faculty salaries and wages, and that's not surprising after last week's assignment. The number associated with last year's fiscal year 2019 salaries and wages is $183,539,000. Fringe benefits, $52,797,000. Other operating expenses, $81,744,000. Insurance, $4,234,000. Utilities, $7,243,000. Interest, $6,249,000. And then depreciation and amortization, $35,340,000. Our total operating expenses, $371,146,000. Our total operating revenue, $417,549,000. Positive number. We're not negative, so we are making money, which is a good thing. Now, areas where we can increase this money, I would allocate most of our resources to increasing philanthropy and government grants. I don't feel that we should be raising tuition for our students. We are a private institution. We already have a fairly high tuition rate, even though it says here that we gave $103,119,000 in institutionally funded scholarships, which lowers the sticker price to our students. We can increase our enrollments, which will increase the tuition fees, and that's definitely an area that we strive for increasing because it is the highest revenue generator. But I do believe that research grants, government grants, and philanthropy is where I would spend our resources, allocate the most resources to increasing those funding streams. And by doing so, what I would do is basically strategically hire somebody that has a proven background of increasing government grants, research grants, any sort of grants of a nature that can generate income or revenue for us, as well as philanthropy. People that have a sound background of going out and getting donors and getting people to donate to the university to increase our philanthropy funds is probably going to be where we want to focus the most of our resources in years to come. One last thing that I would like to discuss before I close this presentation is the financial dilemmas associated with the resource allocation, budget strategy, and budget contingencies that we have in place here at Embry-Riddle. The only reason why I know this is because serving as a department chair last semester, I came into a lot of issues, dilemmas, financial dilemmas associated with budget resources and the contingencies associated with those resources. So what we have is we have a plan. We use a 2-year plan here at Embry-Riddle, a 2-year budget cycle that 2 years in advance, we pre-plan what we're gonna need 2 years from now. So this year, our budget went out through 2022. We are going off of a model that what we thought we would need 2 years ago. It's a contingency that we have in plan so that we know what we're spending 2 years in advance and we can plan for that. Right? Makes perfect sense. It's a good concept. However, this year and last year, we had some issues pop up. We had higher enrollment numbers, exceptionally higher enrollment numbers than what we had projected. So we planned for a specific budget, but that budget does not align with the demands and the resources that we need actually this year. And a lot of it pertains to facilities, classroom space, buildings, and faculty. We have a high increase of student enrollments, which means we need to teach more students, we need to house more students, we need to feed more students, we have to take care of a lot more students, but we're using the finances that were pre-planned 2 years ago, and they're not enough, they're not adequate for the influx of students that we have. So the allocation of our budget didn't meet the needs of what we have, and as a leader in the college, we're fighting with university administration saying, hey, we need more faculty, we need more space, we need all these resources. And although our enrollment numbers are higher than ever, which means that our revenues are higher than ever, theoretically, we don't have the funds available to us because of the contingencies and the resource allocation that we use within our university structure. So that is one dilemma that I found extraordinarily frustrating last semester. If it were up to me, I would probably tweak our resource allocation, our budget planning strategies to the zero plan of, starting out every year, like, hey, have a contingency, have some money set aside for contingencies, but also okay, this is a new year, this is what we're faced with, here are our enrollments, here are our plans, here's what we need money for, and let's budget for that. So that way the needs are better aligned with the resources, because it is extremely frustrating to have to deal with not having the resources that you need to facilitate an influx in students. overall, that is the basic financial stance of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Political environment definitely impacts our university, even in the private sector. Economics associated with the United States, just general economics, plays a part in funding streams coming to the university. There are different funding streams associated with higher education in the forms of government grants, contracts, aid, philanthropy, auxiliary enterprises, tuition and fee. It's a matter of planning and budgeting and resource allocation that line up properly to ensure that the needs are being met for the institution. And if the needs are being met for the institution and everything lines up properly, we're able to best perform and execute our missions and our visions and our goals. And so budget really does play a huge role in the success of our institution. From the financial aspect of things, we're in a pretty good financial position. We're not going into the endowment and having negative numbers, we're adding to it. So that's also something that we strive to do. And overall, the position of the university is a good position.